What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of In the Blender with your host, Shake Money. I got a real treat for you tonight, man. If you're into that old school Miami Dolphins, the 70s, and I'm talking about real good old school football, man, you're going to love today's episode. When we come back, we're going to talk to one part of the Fins Talk Network. Steve Molloy is gracious to join me, and I am lucky to have him here as a guest. So stick around. We'll be back.
I know you heard me on the radio flexing. She loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K. I know you heard me on the radio flexing. She loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K.
Now, what you heard was Larry K. Now, I first met this gentleman in the chat room of Larry L. Now, Larry K, Larry L. I used to chat with him frequently. We had, I don't think we ever had arguments. We used to always say hi to each other. And I remember when I first started this channel, he was in the chat room when I had Larry L as a guest. He was very encouraging of me when I first started, and I'm always going to be appreciative of that. And I'm always going to remember the fact that when I first started, he had a lot of encouraging words for me, and it kind of motivated me. So I'm always going to be forever grateful, and I want to return the favor, man. He is part of the Fins Talk Network. I see him with Dolphins Thirsty, which I support a lot. Dolphins Thirsty in the building. Here we go, Mr. Dolphins Thirsty in the building. We got Dolphins Thirsty, Michael K, my brother from another mother, Crypto. But right now, here we go. Adam Sadowski, what's going on? Greg. But right now, the man of the hour, Mr. Real Talk, and coming soon, Dolphins Rants, my man, Steve Molloy. I am honored to have you here, man. Thank you so much for giving me some of your time, bro.
Hey, no problem, brother. Anytime. Yeah. I appreciate you.
Okay, yeah, there's probably a little delay. Yeah, but yeah, man, I appreciate you, man. So before we get started, man, and how you became a Dolphin fan and everything like that, I want to really do a deep dive. You said you were there in the against the 85 Bears.
Correct.
What can you remember from that game?
Oh man, I remember from that game one of the craziest plays I've seen in a long time was when Dan Marino threw the ball to Mark Clayton, and I don't remember who it deflected off of, and he caught it like 15, 20 yards down the field and ran in for a touchdown. That was an exciting exciting play right there. I'll tell you, it was really, really neat to see that. But that's the most significant play I guess I can remember about that game. I know they were you know,
how loud was it? Because
it was loud. It was loud.
I remember watching it through replay on YouTube, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that stuck out to me was, of course, at the time there was no play clock, right? No play clock, you know, where you could had to set up a play. There was no play clock. I remember the referees pleading with the Dolphin fans to shut up because the Bears couldn't get their plays off because it was so loud.
Oh yeah, man, that place was what went crazy, man. The fans stomping their feet and the whole Orange Bowl just shook. And yeah, it was loud. It was crazy loud. But it was a great game, and it meant a lot to me because I been a fan since 1969.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, my dad, my stepdad, and we had season tickets to the games. And we went to all those games, you know, in the 70s. I had season tickets up into the 78, I believe it was. But anyway, we went to all those games. You know, I saw the winning season, you know, 17-0. And man, I wanted them to beat the Bears so desperately. You know, they were, you know, if the Bears were in the midst of going, you know, 14-0 that season in regular season, and the Dolphins stopped them. They stopped them. And I'll tell you what, man, Dan Marino, as we all know, he wasn't the most mobile quarterback. Um, and they were after him. They were attacking him big time, blitzing him from every angle they could. And he even rolled out a couple times, few times, and got the ball off. And I was very surprised. But yeah, he was definitely he was definitely being pressured a lot, big time. And at that time, the Bears, they had a hell of a defense, man. You
Yeah,
know,
man.
they
If
had
you're into wrestling, man, Steve McMichael was on that team.
yeah,
Randy
Steve
McMichael. Randy McMichael.
McMichael.
I think was it Randy McMichael?
No, it was I don't know if it was Randy McMichael. I can't
No,
remember.
he was
That,
he was one of the horsemen. I can't remember. He was a member of the horsemen. I can't think of his
right,
name right now.
right. You
But
had Hampton, you had Refrigerator Perry, you had oh gosh, I can't even think of the middle linebacker now.
Michael
Anyway,
Singletary, I think was right. Was
yeah,
it Mike
Michael Singletary and all those guys, man. I mean, that was a hell of a defense, and we beat them. We beat them.
Yeah, they played the 46 defense, and because of
46
Dan Marino's
defense,
quick
right?
release, that was one of the strengths.
That's right. Yep, yep. Yeah, it was a hell of a game, man. And I got to see the famous running back, one of the best of all time that I've watched, Walter Payton.
Yeah,
He
Steve
was
McMichael. Steve
yeah,
McMichael.
Steve McMichael. There you go. I should have
Yeah,
remembered that.
he was part of the Four Horsemen.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but that was a great game, man. That was that I was relieved after they beat the Bears for sure.
And of course, we got screwed at in New England, right? Remember with
Yes.
the that was before Belichick.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now that we, by the way, also before another thing that stuck out to me is that there was a number 91 that came from the CFL, Mac Moore, not Matt Moore, MACK Moore. He was a rotational defensive end. I think he had a sack or two in that game, Mac Moore, and then eventually the starting quarterback, because they started off with the backup, and by the time
That's
the game
right.
was over with, they brought in their the other guy,
McMahon.
Yeah, McMahon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they brought him in. He was another quarterback. I mean, he wasn't that he wasn't that good, but he was at that time he was noted as one of the best running quarterbacks. And so that's one of the things our defense had to contain was making sure he didn't get out there and make some running plays.
So let me ask you now the $1 million question. I know you're from Miami. You say you're from
Mhm.
Miami. So am I, born and raised. What made you a Dolphin fan? Because just because you're from Miami doesn't necessarily make you going to be a hometown hero. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. Well, it all started where I guess I might have been about 9 or 10 years old at the time. Um, and I had a cousin of mine who was an avid Dolphin fan from the beginning, and he had season tickets to the games as well. He was older, a lot older than I was, and he invited me to the game that was played in December. I can't remember. I think it was December the 14th, 1969. The Miami Dolphins played against the New York Jets, and Joe Namath was the quarterback, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that game, Greasy might have played, and they took him out. I don't remember if he was injured or they took him out of the game. But John Stofa ended up playing the rest of the game, I believe, who was the backup at the time. And the Jets won 29-7, I believe it was. But just being at the Orange Bowl and in the stands and watching the game, up front, up close. We had good seats, so I was relatively close to the field, and that right there got me hooked, man. That was the point where I knew of the Miami Dolphins, but I knew of them because of my cousin and some of my other family members talking about them. Not too good about them at that time.
Yeah.
But anyway, so then The following year, 1970, my stepfather came into the house and he said, I bought some season tickets. And he says, I'm buying season tickets because they got this great coach, man. His name is Don Shula. He
Mm-hmm.
said they just hired him and I'm getting season tickets. And he says, I really feel good about the direction this team is going to go with this coach and the coaching staff that he hired. It was an all-star coaching staff. You know, you had Snellenberger, Arnsberger, Pete Bethard, Bobby Bethard. You had just a slew of coaches, man, that even did well. Well, of course, you know, Snellenberger
Yeah.
for the University of Miami.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I
so
remember before you go, I remember Arnsberg, Don Shula, and Chuck Noll were on the same coaching staff at one time.
that's right. They were. You're correct. And so we got the season tickets. You know, he got the season tickets, and like I said, man, it couldn't have been. The timing was something else, man. You know, they came off of a 4-10 season, you know, in '69, and Don Shula took that team. I believe it was 10-4 the following year. You
Into a
know,
Super Bowl,
and
right? With the Cowboys, right?
yeah, Super Bowl with the Cowboys, and then the next year they is when they went 17-0, and they beat the Washington Redskins. So yeah, it was some great times, man. I mean, great times. And the thing about it is, you know, back then it's different era of football. It's not like football these days, right? NFL has evolved so much, and back then it was run first and throw. And the Miami Dolphins had Jim Kick, they had Larry Zonka, and they had Mercury Morris. In fact, Mercury Morris and Larry Zonka, if I'm correct, they were the first uh, two running backs on a team to get 1,000 yards.
Yeah.
And that was in set and yeah. And the thing about it is, it was funny because Mercury Morris actually didn't get the 1,000 yards. I think he was like 2 or 5 yards short of 1,000 yards, right? That's what it showed up on the statistics. And then a few maybe it was a week or two later I was reading in the newspaper, they actually gave him those 2 or 3 yards because they said that the play it had to do something with the refs. They made a bad marking with the ball or
Yeah.
something, and they gave him that extra 2 yards, I think it
That's
was,
what's up.
to get to 1,000. So it was pretty cool. But what a trio though they were, man. You had Jim Kick, you know, he's a good runner, you know, inside, but he was the guy that went out and he caught the balls. You know, he was a good receiving running back. He could run in the inside, wasn't very fast, but really good at catching passes, good blockers. Now Mercury Morris, he had a problem in the beginning. He was a great kick returner. He started special teams as a kick returner. And the thing with him is he used to fumble the ball a lot. So they didn't let him play. They didn't give him a lot of opportunities to run the ball. But the following year, I think it was, or it might have been during mid-year of 71, I think it was, or 70 or 71, he fixed that problem. And he started they started giving them the ball more, and he was fast, man. I mean, and he was fastest guy on the team, you know, and he was pretty strong for a little guy. He was only like 185 pounds, 5'10". I met him up close. But yeah, so that's what the era was back then. It was just straight, you know, punch you in the face kind of football, man. And you know, run the ball and then open up that pass. And
Yeah. So let me ask you this then.
mhm.
A trivia question. You know the three officially jerseys. There's only three retired official jerseys that are officially retired. Do you know who they are?
Man, that's a tough one. I want to say 39.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say 13,
Yep.
and
One more.
I want to say Zach Thomas.
No, it's right here.
12. Okay, Bob Greasy. Gosh, I should have known that.
Yeah, those are
Yeah,
the those are the 3 officially retired.
right. And it's funny thing too because Bob Greasy, he was a good quarterback. He was what we would call a good game manager. All
Yeah.
quarterbacks are game managers, but he was a really good game manager. He could read the field, he could scramble. He had a real high football IQ. And to piggyback on that, what I just said, another thing that Don Shula used to do, and I think Larry Zonka made mention of this, is he used to actually he used to actually interview the players, and they had to have a really high IQ to play on the team. Or he said, I don't want you. So these players that he had on the team, they knew football in and out, you know. And I think that's what made them the team that they were back in the 70s, is because of the high football IQ and and um and the coaching staff and the development of the players. They knew how to develop players. And it was like, I know this is an old cliche, next man up, but
Yeah.
it was truly next man up with the Miami Dolphins back in the 70s.
Yeah, because I remember during that 7. Remember, Greasy got hurt for most of the
Greasy
season.
Greasy got hurt, and Earl Morrall, the backup who came from Baltimore, he was an older guy at that time, 38, and he won the remaining 7, 8, 10 games. And that was the undefeated season. He
Yeah.
he won the 10 remaining games, and then they took him took him back out, and then Greasy played. He came back, and Greasy played the rest of the playoffs and of course the Super Bowl.
So let me ask you about how was back in the 70s. How was there was no tailgating, I would assume. Was there any tailgating back in the day?
If there was, I was really young. I really didn't. I'm assuming there probably was, because see, back in the 70s when I used to go to the Orange Bowl, my dad and I used to leave early. My stepdad and I used to leave early. We used to leave about 10 in the morning to watch a 1:00 game. And we'd have to go drive, and we'd have to find parking. They don't have all this fancy parking that they had now. We used to park in people's driveways or in their yards. I mean, people used to charge to park in their yard. And that's the way you used to go, park your car, and then we'd have to walk a half mile or a mile sometimes just to get, into the Orange Bowl. Yeah, to get to the stadium. Yeah, so that's the way they did it back in the day, man.
I can imagine, because I remember when I was growing up, Miami Lakes and 183rd, the area surrounding
Mm-hmm.
the stadium was nothing but sand dunes and cow pastures.
Yeah, it was back in the day. It was. You're right. You're absolutely right. But yeah, those were fun times, man. They were fun times. I mean, 2 Super Bowls in a row. Well, 3 Super Bowls in a row, and they won 2. What else you can't ask for more, man.
Yeah, the only team that ever did more in a row was Buffalo, and
Buffalo.
they didn't win any.
Yep.
So, how would you could you like Tua Tagovailoa, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know he is a very polarizing topic. I think it's more has caused more heated debates than climate change. How would you could you compare him to Bob Greasy? How would you compare him to Bob Greasy?
Nah, I couldn't compare him to Bob Greasy. Like I said, it wouldn't be fair. It was a total different era back then. The offenses these days, they definitely have more advantage over the defense than they did back then. And for example, if your passing percentage was in the 50s, say 50, 55, you were a good quarterback. Nowadays, 65, 70, yeah, you're a good quarterback, because back in the day, man, the game was more physical, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was more physicality, or at least it was allowed more than it is nowadays, especially receivers bump and run, man. You could bump and run and, all the way, 5, 6 yards off the line of scrimmage, and so quarterbacks were throwing in tight windows, very tight windows.
And you couldn't
Nowadays,
throw across the middle. Like, because if you threw across the middle, you're getting your wide receiver decapitated.
yes, you are getting your wide receiver yes, you will, because that I got something about that too. I was at one game where I can't remember. I think it might have been the Baltimore game, but I'm not sure. It's a long time ago, Shake, man. Forgive me.
Yeah.
I'm 64
No.
years old, man.
It's all
Sometimes
good.
I don't even remember what I had for breakfast in the morning.
Me neither.
But anyway, I remember one time Larry Zonka was running the ball. He was my favorite player of all time for the Miami Dolphins, no doubt. Anyway, he was running around the left side. He was running in a wide, around on the left side. And Larry Zonka wasn't the fastest man in the world, but geez, he was so powerful, man. And it was a cornerback that came around he was coming around the left side, and he just went, whoa. I mean, just elbowed him. And the guy went up about 3 feet in the air and plastered him. I think he knocked him out cold, man. I don't think the guy came back in the game. And if I remember correctly, I think I'm not sure if he got a roughing something. He got a call on that, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, yeah, it was funny. But yeah, I mean, guys were physical back then, man. Just look at guys like Earl Campbell used to play for the Oilers, running the ball, and guys like that. John Riggins,
Jim Brown.
Jim Brown, my gosh. It's just a whole different game now, And now, grant you, the players are a lot bigger now. For average size on the defensive line back in the 70s was 250 pounds. That was a big lineman. Offensive lineman, 250 pounds. Linebackers, 210, 215. So I mean, Nick Bonacani, number 85, he was 5'10, 210, 220.
Yeah.
Manny Fernandez, defensive tackle, 75. He was like 6'2, 245, 250. Quick as a cat.
That's a defensive end or linebacker nowadays.
That's a defensive end, that's a linebacker, nowadays, and it was crazy. And another thing was, and I hate to be going back in time here, but those are the memories that I have the most. So I'm going to share them with the younger generation, because I'm sure the younger generation doesn't know a lot of this, and I don't mind sharing.
And I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. Also, back in the day, these players had different jobs. They had second jobs. They weren't making the money that they're making nowadays. Larry Zonka was making like $75,000 a year back then. That's not a lot of money, right? And he was a star player, all pro, right? Some of these other guys were making a lot less than that, and so they had second jobs. And also another thing, whenever these players used to come back from an away game, I was able to go to the airport, Miami International Airport, and I was able to greet them as they got off the planes.
Yeah.
They get off the planes. And so I used to be able to go up there and shake their hands, talk, whatever, Met Larry Zonka, Manny Fernandez. I met a lot of the players, Bob Kuchenberg, you name it. I met a lot of the players that, not just at the airport, but at that time I lived in Miami Springs, and a lot of the players, because of the where the airport was located, it was centrally located for them. A lot of them lived there. Jim Mandich lived in the Springs area. Mad Dog,
he owned Jim Mandich. My favorite color commentator.
Yeah. And he owned a construction company. Yeah, right. Right. And I used to play basketball with him. Nice guy at the Miami Springs Recreation Center. He brought Marlon Briscoe, Stan Mitchell, some of those players. It was him. And there's another guy, a local kid that played football in high school, Pete Athis. If you look him up, he played locally. I forgot what school it was, but he was from the Miami area, and he played for the New York Giants at that time. He was a cornerback. But anyway, so I got to play with all those guys at the gym, playing basketball, and I met Larry Little at the 7-Eleven down the street from my house. Mercury Morris. I don't know if you remember Ben Malone. Ben Malone played. He was a running back in the day from Miami. Met him. Tim Foley, Marv Fleming. Marv Fleming was a member of the, or he was a guest of the country club that my stepfather was a tennis pro at. So Marv Fleming used to go there. Tim Foley used to go there. A couple others that I don't remember now that used to be either members or I don't remember as a kid or guests that they used to go play tennis over there. But yeah, it was fun times back then, man. It's not like these days, man. It's the game has just evolved and it changed for the good, I think in some aspects. If you're looking at the safety, part of the game, they've done a great job in doing that and making it a lot safer for the players.
What do you think of the hip toss tackle, removing the hip tackle?
Man, I don't know. I think it's stupid, to be honest with you. I really do. That's it's going to be interesting to see how they
Tackle.
how they tackle, how that's changed their how they tackle basically. I mean, come on, man. That's ridiculous. I mean, come on. Now some of the things are ridiculous, and some of the things are not. So, but the hip tackle, I think, is just one that is ridiculous.
According to Dolphins Thursday, the NFLPA wanted to keep it.
Yeah.
So that this is a great segment. You do a segment. It's called Dolphins Rants.
Well, I haven't. We're working on it.
Okay.
I'm working on it with the Fins Talk Sports Network. I've got the little symbol and everything, a logo that you put up there today.
Mm-hmm.
That's the logo. It's going to be for the show. But it's in the works. I hope to get it started by the beginning of the football season. It's going to be called Real Talk Rants with Steve Molloy. It's basically a solo show, and I've been often. A lot of folks have often said that I rant a lot on the Real Talk Fins Talk show. So I said, you know what? I think I'll just go ahead and do it. Might as well do a show called Real Talk Rants and just rant.
Sorry. 269 Dolphins podcast. Sorry about that.
No problem.
No, but you know what that reminds me of? I remember back in, I believe it was Channel 6, on Sundays, another Kim Bokamper used to do rants.
Mm-hmm.
He used to do it was like about a 5-minute segment where he would rant about things he didn't like about the NFL or the Dolphins or anything like that.
Right.
Whether it be officiating,
right.
Whatever that it was a rant, and he used to always point the finger like this. And I remember Kim Bokamper. By the way, he is on my bucket list. I want to meet him and take my picture with him. I loved him. I loved him when he was on the Audible.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I think he doesn't do Dolphin social media anymore because he wasn't one of the get along gang. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He would, if he didn't like something, he would speak his mind. As a matter of fact, he wasn't happy with the Brian Flores firing. So they fired him because he was too strict on the players. He goes, eventually I'm gonna have to watch another sport because it's getting too soft. And you never really seen anything after that from him as far as Dolphin social media was concerned.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I like Kimbo Camper, and he does speak his mind, and I do like his takes. I think
Joe
he
Rose
keep
too is the same way.
Joe Rose is the
You
same
can't
way.
control him.
Yeah, you can't. I definitely like. In fact, I was listening to Joe Rose the other night, or not the other night, the other morning. He was on someone's podcast, and they were interviewing him, and he was talking about that, a lot of the what's happening now with the team and how he feels, and he's spot on a lot of that, and he gives you honest takes, man, how he feels.
Yeah. If you listen to Travis Wingfield, he's part of the Dolphins Drive Time. If you
Hmm.
listen to Travis Wingfield when he was on lockdown versus
Hmm.
Travis Wingfield now, they're two
Hmm.
different Travis Wingfields. You could tell he's more and with good reason, because let's face it, he doesn't have the cachet that Bo Camper or
Right,
uh, Joe Rose have.
right. Hmm.
So he can't afford not to toe. He has to toe that company line, or
and
he's out
and
of there.
and that's the reason why I started Real Talk Fins Talk. One of the reasons is, if you want to go there, we can go there on why I started that.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Please.
Yeah. So basically, I was I was I didn't even know there was any podcast until my son turned me on to them maybe 4 years ago. And so I started watching some podcasts and listening, and then I found another podcast and listen, and then I started listening, like Travis Winfield and Omar Kelly was talking, and writing and journalism, and all these other beat writers and media personalities and podcasts. And I started listening, and I started saying, man, the these guys are not telling you the whole story. Not all. Some were giving you a full story, and others were just giving you they weren't giving you the full story. They I don't think they weren't, um I don't know. They were hyping up the team.
Yeah.
I call it propaganda, you know. And they were just throwing this out there and hyping up the team and all this. And I've been around the block a few times, and I've been watching football for a lot, so I get it. I understand, that they got to keep their badges and their credentials and all that kind of stuff. But with today's, podcast, and they're not paying me. Nobody's paying me to do this, right? The team's
Me
not
neither.
paying me, right? So we can say whatever we want, and I'm a guy that I say what's on my mind, and sometimes people like it, sometimes people don't, but I'm gonna tell you how I feel. I'm gonna tell you
Of course.
straight up. And that's why I named it Real Talk Fins Talk. I said, I'm gonna give the fans the real talk, something we can, they can say, well, they can take it or they can leave it, you know and I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm going to tell you how I feel, give you my opinion, and it's just an opinion.
Yeah.
Opinions can be wrong, right, or they can be right. It's just an opinion.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I talked to Bobby Melendez, who is the founder of the Fins Talk Sports Network, which I have my podcast under them, Real Talk Fins Talk, along with Dolphins Thirsty. And so Bobby introduced me. I saw Dolphin Thirsty on a podcast with Bobby. Had him on as a guest, and never heard of him. First time I saw him was on the podcast with Bobby. Went over to his channel and looked at his channel, and I said, "Man, this guy's like a walking encyclopedia when it comes to the Dolphins." And very knowledgeable in the Dolphins and everything. And so Bobby was talking to me, and I was talking to Bobby about starting this channel. And because I actually started watching his when he was started his channel, and then I said, you know what? They kept inviting me on and telling me, hey, come on in, be a guest, whatever. And so I said, look, I want to start my own channel. And they said, do you want to be solo or you want to be with somebody? I said, No, I'd like to be with somebody, somebody else, where we can talk
Yeah, go
back and
back and
forth.
forth,
Yeah,
feed off it.
real talk, right? Just
Yeah,
two old farts talking real talk about the Miami
mhm,
Dolphins.
no doubt.
And so he said, How would you like you know who Rob Mosley is, Dolphins Thirsty? And I said, and matter of fact, I actually saw him on your podcast, and I went and went to his channel, Dolphin Thirsty. And yeah, I'd like to have him as a co-host. That would be great if he's available and he's willing to do that. So I actually called Rob up, and anyway, so I called Rob up, and we talked a little bit, and then we hit it off. The chemistry was there, and he said, "Yeah, I'd be happy to." So we've been doing it ever since, and we're going on. This is going on our third year. This year will be our third year.
That's
Real
what's up.
talk, Vince talk. So, and it's been fun. It's been fun, and he's a little more optimistic than I am. I'm pessimistic by nature, so he kind of equalizes the things out there. Sometimes when I go on my rants, he'll reel me back in.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Good cop,
so
bad cop.
yeah, good cop, bad cop. That's exactly it for real.
Yeah, yeah. The yin and the yang.
The yin and the yang. Yep. So we've been doing it ever since. So and he's been great and putting up with me and stuff. So I appreciate him a lot. For he if it wasn't if we didn't have Dolphin Thirsty on there, it wouldn't be real. We wouldn't have real talk. It just makes the show as well.
All right, I got 3 on the spot questions I want to ask you.
Uh-oh.
All right, first one.
You see, Shake, before I came on the show today,
Uh-huh.
I'm not real good with interviews.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh,
mind
you're doing wonderful. You
I,
talking? Were you kidding me?
well, thank
You're gold, bro.
well, thank you. I don't mind giving interviews. I don't mind, giving an interview, but to get an interview is, oh man, I just get uncomfortable. And then
I
before the
hope you're not
show,
uncomfortable with me.
no,
Hopefully,
you're making me real comfortable.
I
I like
appreciate that.
that. Remember, I told you one time. I told you we had talked before. I said you are. I like your, the way that you're calm, cool, collective, and that's you're making me at ease. So I
I
appreciate that
appreciate that.
because I'm going to tell you the truth. I had some butterflies in my stomach before coming on.
For
That
that.
that's
Yeah.
that's how nervous I get when it comes to interviews. But anyway,
No,
go ahead.
trust me, you're gold.
All right.
I'm being honest. I'm being sincere. All right, here we go. You have the LA Chargers, San Diego Chargers, LA Rams, San Diego Rams. LA Rams, St. Louis
Mhm.
Rams, LA Rams, Oakland Raiders, LA Raiders, etc. Now, I say that to say this. What if the Miami Dolphins, and I know it's not going to happen, this is just a hypothetical, went to the Austin, Texas, became the Austin Texan Dolphins. They took the library, the name. It's not like how the Cleveland Browns became the Ravens or the Baltimore Colts. The Baltimore Colts went to Indianapolis Colts. So if it went from that scenario, would you still be a fan of the Dolphins?
That's easy. That's easy, Shake. I live here in Houston, Texas. So yeah, of course. No. No, either way, yeah, for sure, man. I'm a diehard Dolphin fan to the day I die, brother.
So
No doubt.
you'll definitely you'll enjoy it more because you'll be able to
I'll
go
be
to
able to
games.
see him.
I know
Yeah,
some people want it. Some people want it because
yeah,
they're
yeah.
like me.
No,
I'm tied to Miami. So
right.
if Miami came up with another team, I'm gonna be that fan of that Miami team, the new
Right,
Miami team.
right. No,
Like
they
I'm
could.
sure there's Baltimore Colts fans. They were like, as soon as they got the Ravens, okay, guess what? I'm a Ravens fan now instead
Yeah.
of Colts.
So let me tell you. Let me mention this now. Now, if they moved to New York City or New Jersey, no, I wouldn't be a fan. No,
No.
I'm only kidding. No, I definitely would be a fan, no matter where they move to, for sure.
So, what do you have any game day food that you like to eat? I ask everybody. This is like a kind of a standard. Do you have any game day meals that you like to have? or is
Yeah. The wife usually makes some wings. I like hot wings, so she'll make some really good hot sauce, homemade hot sauce, and have some wings. Yeah.
that's what's up? Yeah, and all right. Here's the last question. Being that you are, doing podcasts and things like that,
hmm
um, you could only interview. This is a two-part question. So if you could interview Greer, Ross, or they give you a chance to either interview. You could Ross, Greer, or McDaniel. Who are you interviewing?
Whoo! Oh man. I would interview Greer,
Greer.
and I
Okay.
give him a piece of my mind.
Now you could ask three under oath questions where they have to tell you the truth, no BSing. What would they be?
How many questions?
You got three under oath questions where they have to tell. He's in the you gave him truth serum, and he has to answer honestly the three questions. What would it be?
Well, the first one would be, do you truly believe Tua is the quarterback, our franchise quarterback? That would be the number one question. Uh
Look at that. He knows you.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. And then number two would probably be
Well, you got two more.
two more. Okay. Number two would be, how do you pick your draft picks? How do you put that together and choose your pick? And then number three would be, what do you really have on Ross?
I can't argue with those questions. So let's transition to last year's team. Okay,
Okay.
what would you give their grade?
Wow, last year's team. I would have to give them a C plus.
What made it? Why such a C? Von Joe was good. Von Joe.
Well, in the first part of the year, they played pretty well. I would have to give them an A, and then with the 6 losses and the way
Mhm.
that they lost, and then the position they were in to put themselves to win division, and they blew that, and they blew the seed, being the first seed. Got to give them an F on that. So you add A and F, C plus.
Yeah, that's what's up. All right, now I have two awards. Two for offense, two for defense.
Mm-hmm.
We have the offensive MVP and the offensive participation trophy, and the same goes for defense. Who is your offensive MVP, and who is your defensive offensive participation trophy?
Okay, so MVP and participation trophy for defense and offense.
And participation trophy is they just participated. They really didn't
Okay,
contribute. Just
I got you. Um, Man, I know a lot of people are gonna think they don't believe I'm gonna say this.
hmm
I'm gonna say Tua.
oh, cool.
I want to say Tua, most valuable player on offense, and wow, participation. Uh, does it have to be a starter?
Yeah, anybody you deem as a
Uh,
participation trophy, not really, but yeah, as long as he participated at least,
Chase Claiborne.
Chase
Pool.
Claypool.
Yeah, Chase Claypool.
Yeah, yeah.
And then on defense, I would have to say most valuable player. Whew, man. Well, I would have to give it to Christian Wilkins last year. He had a hell of a
Mhm.
season when he played. Then
Participation, yeah.
participation, I would have to say, oh man, Cam Smith.
Cam Smith.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't even participate. How about Apple?
Eli Apple, everybody give Eli Apple a bunch of crap, but I didn't think he played that well. I thought he played solid. Well, in that case, yeah, you're right. He didn't participate. He participated on special teams, but you're right. He didn't participate on the defense. Then I guess I'm going to have to go with oh man, Cater Kohu.
Gator Kohu?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good. I tell you what, and I shout out to Color because if it wasn't for Color, I wouldn't know who Dolphin Thirsty was. He was the one who directed me to Dolphins Thirsty. I'm always going to give him that credit. But Color was saying that, you know what, at the end of the day, Cater Kohu isn't a good cover guy, but he is the best tackler we have on our defense as far as pure tackler.
Yeah.
Fundamentally.
So he participated.
Yeah. Hey, I like how you think there. So the last question, which we're not there yet, is the Mount Rushmore. So I want to do like a Mount Rushmore of 2022.
Okay.
Last year, 2023.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to, it could be a coach, it could be a player, it doesn't have to be a coach. Who would you put, like, for instance, you're trying to you're doing you're part of marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're putting out a flyer. You got to put 4 people that you think were key contributors to this team's success. Who would they be?
In 2022?
No, for last year, 2023.
2020.
23. No,
23?
24,
Okay.
yeah, 23-24 season.
Okay.
It could be coach. It could be, it doesn't have to be necessarily.
Yeah. Mike McDaniel. Man. You got to put Tyreek Hill up there.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say Christian Wilkins. And then he played well when he got hurt.
DG live in the building.
I would say I'm going to give 2 for offense and 2 for defense.
Okay.
So I say Jalen Phillips.
Jalen Phillips, yeah. How do you think he's gonna fare next year? They pick up the 5th-year option on him. So
did they?
Yeah,
I didn't see
that. Chris Greer said in the press conference that he's gonna pick up.
He's going to, but they haven't done that yet.
Yeah, but he is going to pick up the 5th year on both of them. They're not going to get extended yet.
Right. Yeah. How he's going to fare next year? Look, he's working like a dog, man, trying to get back, to play and everything. And he's got the right mindset and everything. It's tough, man, because an Achilles heel injury is, with a big guy like that, and he's got to push off that that leg, and get to the passer. Depending on when he comes back, I don't think he's going to be back the first game of the season. I think they're going to slowly work him back into the lineup. Don't rush the man. Even though I know he's going to be raring to go, an injury like that, he can very well hurt it again if you push him too hard and push him in the lineup really, too soon. I think Man, I don't think he's going to be as effective as he was last year. Um, I think it's going to put him behind a little bit, the 8 ball, as far as his development is concerned, because not only physically but mentally, I don't think he's going to be there. Knowing that he could possibly get hurt again and whatnot. Um, but I think what they should do is they should work him in very slowly and just play it by ear and see how he feels and maybe play him sparingly. Maybe I would love to see them draft an edge rusher this year, and that way they already got Barrett, right?
Hmm.
So I think they need another guy just in case he's not fully 100%, because I don't think he's going to be 100% this year.
So would you say draft one?
Yeah, I would say draft an edge. Those are your impact players: edge, cornerback, safety, running back, wide receiver, quarterback. Those are your impact players.
Hmm.
In today's game, that's what you've got to draft, man.
So who was your favorite move, and what was your disappointing move of the offseason?
Of last year,
No, this offseason. What
I mean
was
this offseason. So far,
yeah
I
so
would
far?
say, wow. Um, I like to see. I'm hoping Fuller, the cornerback, Kendall Fuller. I like that move. We needed someone to take Xavier Howard's spot, and I think we need to. I think we need to get another. I think we need more cornerbacks and safeties, to be honest with you. But I like that Kendall Fuller move. And then the one that I really don't like probably is only because I like the player that he's possibly replacing,
Hmm.
and that was either the Anthony Walker, the linebacker,
Hmm.
or Jordan Brooks, because they're taking the spot of Andrew Van Ginkel.
So what was
So
the movie you didn't like? Like I guess not. Were you
that's
not
the
a
one
fan
I
of not
didn't.
signing Christian Wilkins?
No, I didn't like the Van Ginkel move.
Okay, yeah, me neither.
I didn't like the Van Ginkel move. Van Ginkel's a beast, man. He was a motor. And look, Christian Wilkins, I liked his play. I'm sorry we lost him.
But
But
not at $30 million a year.
not at that price. And to be quite frank with you, the games that he really, not taking anything away from him, but
Yeah.
the games that he really excelled and played really well in were the bad games.
Hmm.
The good games, he played solid.
Yeah. The one thing that that we have some Christian Wilkins years, like 2 years, whatever.
Yeah.
And the one thing they could say, oh, is well, he did that one play. They could only bring up one play, the fourth down, the strip sack he did on Josh Allen.
Right.
That's pretty much all they could say. But
Yeah. No,
yeah, I agree with you.
yeah,
He's no
he is.
Warren Sapp. He's
No,
no Aaron Donald.
no,
Sorry.
no, he's not. He's not. And yeah, we couldn't pay him that for sure.
And I'm not a big Canes fan, and I will never disrespect Warren Sapp like that.
Yeah. Warren Zapp was something else, man.
Tell you what, from day one when he got into the NFL, he was putting fear into quarterbacks' hearts.
Yeah. 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 I know Dolphin Thirsty say AVG wanted to go home. I don't think so. I think he wanted. I think if they would have offered him $1 million more than what they're paying Brooks, he would have stayed.
So being that you, or I want to ask you this: being that I know Big O says you can't compare the two, but I'm going to ask you to.
Mm-hmm.
How would you compare and contrast the Marx Brothers with Waddle and Hill?
Woo. Man, all four of those guys they had some speed, man, to them. They really did. I actually have, and I know I'm being biased here,
Mm-hmm.
but I honestly think Mark Clayton was a great route runner. Clayton was a hell of a route runner, a lot better than Waddle. And now, Tyreek was definitely, I think, better than Mark Duper. But I would have to give the edge to the Marks brothers because of that.
All right, so let me ask you this: you could you could do right. If you had to split up the Mark, you had to pair one of the Marx brothers with Tyreek and Hill. Which one would it be?
If I had to pair one of
like,
those
for
two,
instance, so Mark Duper. Like, say, I'll give you an example: Mark Duper with Waddle, or Mark Duper with Hill, and vice versa.
I would say Mark Clayton with Tyreek Hill. Yeah.
And then I guess Duper with Waddle.
And then Duper with Waddle. Mm-hmm.
All right. And so I have this one of the questions before I ask the last question. Well, not the last question, because I have a couple of more questions as far as content creation is concerned. But as far as Dolphins is concerned, I have two more questions. And one of the questions is the duos. Okay. You have 5 duos. You have the Marx brothers, Ricky and Ronnie, Dwight Stevenson, and the center, Dwight Stevenson. What was it? That's his name, right? Dwight Stevenson?
Yeah, Dwight Stevenson. Mm-hmm.
And Richmond Webb. Tyreek, the Marx brothers. Did I say Marx brothers?
Yes, you did.
Okay, the Marx brothers, Ricky and Ronnie, Dwight Stevenson, and Richmond Webb.
Yep.
Zach Thomas and Jason Taylor.
Whew.
Or Patrick Surtain and what's the other? Patrick Surtain and Sam Madison.
Mm-hmm.
You could add one of those duos to next year's roster. Which one would it be and why?
Man. You're making it tough, Shake. Let's see. Next year's roster.
You can add one of those duos to that roster.
Ricky and Ronnie.
Ricky and Ronnie?
Yep.
Nice.
Because the running backs that we have now, we don't know. A-Chain was not healthy part of last year. Mostert got hurt eventually and got banged up. He's getting older. We need a guy, a power back, and Ricky Williams would be that guy, man.
Oh yeah.
And Ronnie Brown for sure.
Good luck trying to load up the box with those guys.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Even if you load, that's the thing. With last year December, they load up the box with us, whatever, and they stop the run. You load the box with those guys, you still can't stop them.
No, you can't, because they don't need the offensive line that Achane or Mostert need. They can make their own holes. And once they get through those holes, Ricky Williams could fly. He wasn't as fast as Mostert, but he was a 4.4.
No, you ain't stopping him. Once he gets to the second level, you're not stopping him.
You ain't stopping him. He was 4.3 guy, 4.4 guy, and he had some power to him.
Yeah,
he was a thick guy. He was big.
Yeah, no. Unfortunately, like the only people that were able to tackle him were defensive linemen. Once he was no corners or cornerbacks or safeties was able to bring him down. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. So last questions, Dolphins related, and I just got a couple of questions, content creation wise.
Mm-hmm.
Who is your Mount Rushmore of the Miami Dolphins?
You mean through history, going back to the 66 to up to this point?
Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The dogs were fighting and I had to step in.
No problem.
But go ahead. Continue. Who
So
is
you
your Mount Rushmore of the Miami Dolphins?
going back from 66 up to this point?
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be player. It could be owner, coach, you name it.
Okay. Don Shula would be number one.
Okay.
Larry Zonka, Zach Thomas. Man. Let's see. One more. Gosh. I got to put an offensive lineman in there, I guess. Dwight Stevenson.
Dwight Stevenson. Awesome. That's hey. I love that, man. Everybody has. That's the thing I like about the Dolphins. Everybody, not one person out of all the guests that I've asked, don't have the identical Mount Rushmore, which is awesome because
Yeah,
not every, you know what I'm
absolutely.
saying?
Absolutely.
I love it. Lastly but not least, now that you are on this side of the podcasting, two questions. What advice would you give somebody that's trying to start doing what you're doing what we're doing? What advice would you give them?
What advice would I give them? Is I'll give the same advice that I gave Courtney Dahl, Dolphin Dahl 72. Just do it. Get your feet wet. That's the only way you can do it. You know, if you got that idea and you want to do it, do it and be sincere about it. And just be you. Just be you. That's all you got to do. Just be you.
Yeah.
And just do it and be you.
As funny as in the blender, if I watched the very first episode I did versus now, there's a big difference. I think I've cleaned up my interviewing. I think I've cleaned up a lot of things. I used to use a lot of filler words like man and you know what I'm saying. So I think I've gotten a lot better. What are some of the challenges do you think that faced when you first started doing this?
Oh man.
Hope you don't mind me asking, by the way.
No, it's fine. Probably content, you know, how I would format it, you know, how to put it together, where to find it, you know, just setting up the format of how I was going to start the show, you know, and eventually once the challenge is getting into a rhythm, getting into getting into I guess a niche, you know, finding your niche, you know, and the only way you can do that is by trial and error. Those are the challenges is trying to find that niche to put the show together the way that you would like it to go. Now, it doesn't always go like that. You know, sometimes I put a format together or I'm going to talk this, and this, and then we ended up over on the other side somewhere, you know, but you just trying to stay focused on what you know, on the content that you're trying to present.
You know, what's funny is I one of the people that I try to model myself after is Rich Eisen. Because I'm not like Reason or TD Finstock with the X's and O's. That's not my niche. Like you said, find a niche. This is more of my niche, interviewing and talking old school Dolphins. I'm like the Rich Eisen show. He's not like Cowherd or Skip Bayless that rattles off these X's and O numbers and stats and statistics. He gives his takes and things like that, but I think he's more of an interviewer, and that's what I would like to be, essentially.
Yeah, and you do a good job at it too.
Yeah, you know, I'm very neutral. The only time I will correct somebody, not for their opinion, but let's say, for instance, Ricky Williams came to us in 2001. No, he actually came out in 2002. You know, little things like that. Not because at the end of the day, look, I've said this numerous times on this platform where at the end of the day, look, if you have an opinion, the only way you know you're right is when you challenge it. And if you challenge it, two things will happen. You either come out with a different perspective or you have fortified what you believe in because you put it to the test.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
absolutely, absolutely. No, exactly. I do that all the time on Real Talk, Fins Talk. Rob and I both do that all the time.
I welcome diverse opinions. You know what I'm saying? If I'm
Absolutely.
wrong, I'm not afraid to. At the end of the day, look, you don't come on. I know you've questioned Tua Tagovailoa, but I don't
Mhm,
look you as a Tua. You just have some concerning issues. At the end of the day, you don't
mhm.
when at Sunday at 1 o'clock when he throws the ball, you root for him. You don't say, "Oh,
Absolutely.
fuck Tua." No,
No doubt, no doubt. And I'm glad you brought that up, Shay, because you're correct, man. When I'm on the podcast, I'm giving you the opinion of what I see and what they need to correct. I'm critiquing, if they played good, if they played bad, if they need, in my opinion, if they want to do, I'd like to see them do this or do that. And people see that, and they take it literally and personally, And what I always say on Real Talk, Vince Talk show is I say, we may not always agree everything, Dolphins,
Mhm.
but there's one thing we do agree on. We are all Dolphins.
Yeah.
And
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 it's
that's
funny. One of the fallacies that I hear people say all the time is, "Oh, I don't agree with everything you say." Well, fuck. My wife, who I love the most, I don't agree with everything. My brother, who I love the most, I don't agree with everything. I have yet to meet the person who I agree with 100%.
yeah. No, me too. And you're right. And it'd be pretty boring if that was the case.
Yeah,
Right? you know. So it's good to get the blood boiling a little bit every once in a while. It shows that you're alive.
no
And
doubt, man.
so
By the way, stick around for a few, if you don't mind, backstage. I have a couple of questions I want to ask you. But
sure.
before we go, man, I want to thank, of course, Dolphins Thirsty. I told him I previewed this morning that you were going to be on here and hooked up Joe, my man DG Live, Raphael Courtwright, Bon Joe in the building.
Bon
I
Joe.
appreciate everybody who came in. Big Nick, South Florida Accountability. I seen him throw a question in there. I appreciate everybody who supports the channel because look, at the end of the day, I think In the Blender is my baby. I think this is my the one I care about the most because it's my first show, my first platform on my own, and this is what I enjoy doing. I enjoy talking to people, meeting new people, getting different perspectives of the Miami Dolphins, and that's how we learn. As listening to everybody, and I don't like Larry K says, Larry L. Sorry, Larry L. Larry
Yeah.
Legend.
Yep.
Larry L. used to say, man, one of the reasons that gave him is you don't know everything, so you have to ask. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing I learned from him is you listen, man. You have to ask because asking is learning. You know what I mean? Don't act like you're the smartest one in the room because if you are the smartest one in the room, then what's the point? You know everything. Who gives a you know what I'm saying? What's the point
Yeah.
of living?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know
Absolutely.
everything. So, but
Absolutely.
anyway, man, like I said, I am honored, man. You are gold. I loved all the old school talk that you provided, man. And again, I am honored that you agreed to come on here, man. Any final words before we go?
No, man. I mean, thank you very much for having me on. You really made me feel at ease, and you do a great job, Shay. Keep doing it, man. You're doing a great job. And I want to thank everybody that was in the chat tonight for joining. Please hit that like button for Shake Money, and if you're new to the channel, please subscribe to his
Yeah.
channel as well. And I want to leave y'all with this: is you know, uh you made a good point about you're learning, you're not the smartest person in the room and all that, and that's correct. And I listen to several podcasts, and a lot of them, some of them I don't agree with, some of them I do agree with. But there's one is and is one thing though that I do get is I always take something and learn something from any of those podcasts,
Right.
and you know Dolphins, throwing ideas and stuff, and that's how I learned too, and then I put everything together and form my own opinion. So
That's what's up, man. Me too, as well. You know what I'm
and
saying?
I try to support everybody that's in the community. I
Me
never
too.
talk bad about anybody. That's just unprofessional. We're in this all community together. We're all Dolphins, and we need to get along. I mean, what I mean by get along is I don't mean we have to agree with everything. I mean,
Mhm.
we have to agree to disagree.
Yeah, have a respect. Look,
Have a respect.
one thing I told I used to, like, at my coworkers, David Hodo, he was an old guy. He was one of the, look. There was an old guy. He was my dad's age when I used to work with him when I was a custodian back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I've always say to myself, God damn, if I would have fucking listened to him, I would have been in a lot better spot when I am now. And one thing he always used to say, I used to always get into fights with my coworkers. He goes, listen, you don't have to go home with them. You don't have to be their friends. You just got to coexist with them.
Yeah,
At the end of the day,
exactly.
let's cohabitate, because at the end of the
Exactly.
day, we have one goal, and let's put our differences aside and let's achieve that goal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And you know what it boils down to, Shake, and I used to be a correctional officer, so
Hmm.
I dealt with inmates, all the time,
Wow.
every day.
By the way, thank
And
you for your service, because it's you guys. You do a hell of a job, man.
oh, thank you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was in the military too, so I you kind of goes, into the military too, but basically in the prison system, I learned it really quick. Is you're dealing with, maybe a lot of these guys are not the best human beings in the world, right? They've committed some heinous crimes. Um, Two things I learned: never judge a book by its cover, and respect.
Wow.
That's it. That's all it is. It just respect. Respect is the number one thing. As long if you bring respect into your vocabulary, into your life, it'll go a long way. Just have
And
to respect.
again, one thing about you, what you say, you brought up a good point. There's a lot of people that made a heinous crime, but that's not who they are. They were caught up in a bad moment. They just made one moment of a bad judgment, and now they have to carry that title for the rest of their lives, just for one moment of weakness, or you know what I'm saying. They could have controlled their rage or stuff like that, and unfortunately, it led to that path. You know what I'm saying? And that's not who they really are, but that's just, unfortunately, they made one mistake. People, I've actually seen people turn themselves around because of that. So
Yeah.
growing up from Carroll City, I've seen a lot of people that you know uh I one example, I seen this one guy, man. He was in and out of prison. I grew up with, and I seen him years later, man. The guy was a manager. He cleaned himself up, and he made the right. He started making the right decisions. You know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
man, I tell you what, man. Again, I appreciate you. You really. These are the type of episodes I really live for, man. Just like I said, I wanted to get to know people. I got last year. I went to a lot of Dolphin games, and I got to meet people that I wouldn't have normally have met. And again, I am honored to actually speak with you, man.
Oh, thank you, man. I'm honored too. And I feel the same way. I love talking with people. I really do. It's one of my pastimes. I enjoy talking to people. I could talk to my wife will tell you. She says,
Mhm.
"I don't know how do you talk to just anybody?" And it's
I do the
true.
same.
I'll go in the store and wave to somebody and start talking. She says, "You know him?" No, I just met him. you know, but it just comes natural to me anyway. But anyway,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can tell you're in the right path because you have the gift for gab.
oh, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
So
Yeah,
again, once again, man, the Real Dolphins Network. The link is in the description below. Please make sure
thank you,
you
Jake.
you click and like and share and subscribe, man. You guys, you'll be seeing a lot more of me because I turn on notifications. So man, I wish you well, and fins up, everybody. We out of here.
Fins up, Dolphins number one, baby.
I know you heard me on the radio. Flexing. She loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K. I know you heard me on the radio. Flexing. She loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K.